Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of SNG Weekly. This week, we're going to get back to the J.J. Abrams Enterprise. There's a lot to do on it. Basically, what I want to do is seal it up, glue everything tight, shut, permanently glue it all together because we know all the lights are working, seam it, paint it, in other words, touch up all the seaming where all the putty's been put in, make everything all white again, and have it all ready to take and put Aztec masks on it, made by Lou Dalmaso from Aztec Dummy. So you're going to be seeing that. In addition to that, the D finally gets finished so it can be shipped back to China. This time it's going to get shipped in a different manner, so we hope it gets there just fine. I'm sure it will. Also, the communion bust has been rather popular lately, and the mold's starting to wear out. So I'm going to show you how a clay press is done. And that is, basically, we want to make another sculpture, but we don't have to resculpt the whole thing. We want it to look like what we've been selling all along. So we're going to clay press the mold, pull a pressing out, tidy that up, and make a new mold on it. You're going to see that process. Also this week we're going to take a trip to town. You won't see that, but we are taking a trip to town, and we're going to ship all the perks out to our backers of Martians Attack SNG. That's Martians Attack SNG. So we'll be doing that. We also are going to have a special guest here. Modelman Tom himself is coming up to work on his Red 2, his Star Wars car, in which we're going to show you that as well. And of course, we're going to have our really fun and popular to us anyway question and answer period, which we enjoy so much. So let's get on with the show. Hey everybody! That's a silly way to start things, but hey, it's true. Hey everybody. This is the communion mold for the bust. It's been rather popular lately, and in fact over the last couple of years I've made quite a few out of this mold, and up to this point they've all been made out of latex, the way they were in the movie, which makes them kind of cool because they're rubbery and stuff, and I make them so thick, and the way I paint them, they'll last pretty much forever. But there's always a problem. The chemicals in latex, although they're only ammonia and latex, and there might be something else in there too. The ammonia has a tendency over time, whether it's foam rubber or latex rubber, which really they're the same thing. One's foamed up, mixed in a mixer, and the other chemicals to stabilize it to keep it a nice spongy foam, but it's basically the same material. And the chemicals start to eat away at the mold, and unfortunately we start to lose detail. We get what's called shelving here. These eyes used to be really perfectly smooth, they're not anymore, and it creates a lot of work when I'm making up a bust. We have lowered the price, and the reason for that is that I'm going to clay press this mold. So what's going to happen is I'm going to push clay in here, and then I'm going to put more ultracal inside, and I'm going to take the mold apart, and that will give me a sculpture from this mold that looks exactly, or it is identical. There'll be a few little pieces of damage here and there where you pull it open, but it's very easily retouched and resculpted and cleaned up. And then we're going to make a silicone mold and make these out of 2-part polyurethane foam, polyurethane resin, which will last virtually forever. It'll outlive us all. The mold will last a little bit longer too. So, and from time to time we'll have to do that. So I will always keep this mold so I can do that again. I can make another clay press. But molds get worn out, and they get to a point where you might want to make a new master. And so even if this is a latex mask, for you guys who are making latex masks, your mold's getting worn out, you never made a master, and you never made a duplicate mold. Well, all you got to do is start pressing clay into it. And I use the EM210, which is the layup clay or white clay, and you can see what happens. Just pressing it into the mold. So much of the work is done for me. I don't have to resculpt it. It will be the same sculpture. I can clean up these eyes with a brush and some water and make them all perfect again. So I hope I didn't pull that away too soon, Mary. So I'm going to press clay into the mold like so. This is why we call it a clay press. Pushing it down into the nose and the lips and everywhere to get everything just to pick up all the detail. And then after that's done, we're going to pour in Ultracal 30, and that'll harden up, and that'll be the armature basically inside. And we'll take the two halves of the mold apart, and we'll have a sculpture. And I'll clean it up and make a new mold. And you can do that forever. So never throw out your old molds. You think they're getting worn out, they're not good for anything anymore. You can clay press them and clean up the sculpture. It'll save you a lot of time over sculpting another one. Plus, it retains the original sculpture, which is kind of cool. Now, I learned this, of course, from my days working at Dompo Studios. Because molds that wear out there, they made hundreds, thousands of masks, and this is when they were all made in the United States, right in sunny Glendale. And Dave Ayers will remember, because that's how I met Dave Ayers and Rick Stratton. Both I met working there. And this is what we did a lot. I'd see Bill Malone and Bob Short constantly taking out old molds, clay pressing them, taking them apart, and cleaning up the sculptures and making new molds. So it's really good. Now we're going to come back here in a minute, and I'll show you the next step of this after we get both sides done, and we'll, you know, pour in the Ultracal when we come back. We've got the two halves of the mold together now, and what we're going to do is fill this with Ultracal. Now, what I did is I filled it with the clay, both sides. You saw I did. I put a mold strap around it, which you can't see, clamped it together, and I had a little bit of it extending over the edges on both sides, so it kind of compressed. And then I took the stick, looking down through the neck, and kind of pressed everything back in there, so I know it's solid. And I will also use this stick to go down into the Ultracal. This will stick up so far, and then that will stick into a wooden base, so that I can, excuse me, put it on this. Mary has had this fixation on having a Lazy Susan, and every place we go, we never find one. This one we found at World Market for $15. It has no play in it. It's made out of marble. It's beautiful, and it will support really heavy sculptures and stuff because it's really well made. So, World Market, $15. Great for sculpting. And it actually matches the Cochrane bases rather well, don't you think, Jeff? Jeff helps. I digress. This will be then, of course, on a wooden base, and that'll be on that, and I can do my sculpting. So, now that this is all pressed in and it's all sealed and stuff, we want to take a bucket and put water in it and put Ultracal 30 in it. But before you do, I hate messing up buckets, and I'm always buying new buckets because I'm lazy and I know better. And so what you do is you go in here with a brush, and they taught us this at the studios. I know Rick Stratton and I used to do this all the time. Well, Rick did anyway. I'd get lazy, but no more. So this is my studio and Mary's studio, and we take care of our stuff, right? So, and we save money by not messing up buckets. Well, what happens is this will not get into the water, and it will not affect your mix in any way. But what will happen is when the Ultracal sets up, there'll be just about zero chance that any of it will stick to the inside of the bucket. When you clean your bucket out, it'll look like this again for a very, very, very long time. And it helps to put it over the edges too, because it won't stick. You can go bam, bam, bam like this, and the Ultracal will pop away, but it always leaves us some residue, and after time the bucket goes really bad. So it really helps to do this, in my humble opinion. Now, we're going to do, put some water in here and some Ultracal. We'll come back for that in a second. So now that we've got our Ultracal 30, which is a very hard stone, like plaster, because I know there's people watching these for the first time, and I'm always thinking to myself, we've seen this before, but you may not have. So this is Ultracal 30, which is like plaster, which is a hard tooling stone for making molds. It's just really hard. It's not as brittle and easy to break as plaster, which is why I like to use it. And it's mixed up fairly thin enough that I can pour it down and get it to fill the crevasse, the cavity inside. Hopefully I've made enough. I was worried I made too much. I made exactly the right amount. How many times does that happen? I mean to tell you, I made exactly the right amount. I wasted nothing, and I like that, but it was just purely a guess and luck, a bit of luck. You can already see inside the bucket there how it's not sticking to the side of the bucket at all because of the Vaseline, so it's very helpful. I mean to tell you, this was exactly the right amount to the edge, so that's really good. There'll be a little bit of displacement with the wood in it, which is going to want to float up, but that's okay. Just like that, and we're going to let that set, and we have what we need, which is our clay press to make a new mold for the communion bust. And we will come back and open this up in a little while. This out of the bucket. I think our Ultracal is plenty hard enough, and what we want to do is we're going to open this up and get ourselves a clay press. With any luck and a strong breeze. I think that's about that. I'm going to put this on, if I can, now rather than later, so I can set it down. That fit rather well. And we're going to take off the back first, which is just trying to float off. You can see it. It's like not even an issue. I think you can see it. So I turn this more this way. There we go. I'm just going to kind of wiggle that free. There's going to be a little damage to it, but not much. We got some lapping, which is not something I like to see, but it's easily fixed. I mean, I am going to have to do more sculpting and fix things, but it beats having to start all over again from scratch. In a couple of days, we'll be able to make a mold again. Coming loose. Come on. There we go. Well, unfortunately, it did way more damage than I would have thought. It's still going to save me lots of time, but I'm going to have to re-sculpt. And we'll come back when I'm done re-sculpting. So bit by bit, getting back to shape, and actually making some minor adjustments. Because, you know, after I did this a few years ago, I'm looking at some things that aren't quite like they are on the book cover. Of course, this has always been a very, very difficult subject. I think anybody who's tried to sculpt it will agree. It's not an easy one to do, because the book cover, after all, is a two-dimensional painting, and this is a three-dimensional sculpture. And then there are things. No, I do not want to do a hangout. There are things in the sculpture that are done in 2D that really don't translate well into 3D. So, but it's real close. So, but as you can see, very, very quickly, because it's only been, oh God, I don't think it's even been, what, an hour since I opened up the clay press, Mary? I don't think it's been that long. I've got everything back, the shape I want, the nice pedestal that it will sit on now, like that, and I got all the flaws fixed, and you know, so tomorrow I can really go to town on this and finish it off and make our new mold. This is all back. It didn't really take very long. The clay press, of course, saved just hours, and the sculpture is still the same sculpture, which is the idea, although as always I've changed some things looking at the book cover to make it just to see some, you just see little things, you go, oh, I should have done that, or I should have done this, and I have done those things. It's probably not something you can really recognize or know. You'd have to be a real expert of the book cover, but there are some minor changes. So I'm just kind of tidying up the sculpture now, and adding a few little wrinkles here and there. I know it doesn't have them on the book cover, but Whitley and I talked about this and about the fact that up close, what he refers to as the communion lady looks very old. Well, not like very old, but old. There was signs of furrowing and wrinkles in the flesh. So I'm adding some of those, but I'm going to try to keep them subtle. I still have some adjustments to make in various areas on the sculpture, like this eyelid here needs to be thickened up a bit on top, but we are almost there. And of course, what you do after you scrub it, a few wrinkles like that, and you really don't want them to be that strong, as you scrub them down with the water and the soft brush, like you see me doing now, because we lost most of those from the clay press. And I'm going to do that. Kind of take them down so they're just barely there, just a subtle hint of them, like so. And then using my fancy texture pad, I'm going to go over and just add a little texture. And I also picked up some crumbs, which is a problem with water-based clay. You pick up crumbs. So just kind of lightly texture it like that. And then I'm going to take a brush to it. I mean the spritz bottle over here, which also creates texture when you see what I do. And that is, I'm going to hammer that. God, these little bumpets get me crazy. Just kind of hammer it with the stuff like that, and that actually gives you texture too. As soon as I get rid of these crumbs. And as always, there's a hair in there from the brush. But it's getting there. Now, of course, we don't want this texture on the eyes. We want them to be smooth and shiny, so I'll go back over them. And they still, this one's pretty smooth now. I just got to get the other one as smooth. I'm going to go in there with a soft brush and just make it perfectly smooth. Originally, there were plastic vacuum formed eyes in there that I sculpted on, which I can't get in there now in the clay press without destroying everything. And rather than do that, I'm just keeping it in the clay. But she is almost there. We got a little bit more work to do, a little bit more texturing down here and stuff, and this is back to where it was before I pulled the clay press apart. It's looking good. So this will be finished probably tomorrow, and then, you know, I'm going to make the mold next, which of course we will cover on video. That will be in next week's video. You'll see how I make the mold of this, and the mold will be made out of silicone so that we can make them out of 2-part polyurethane. So that worked out really well. There's still smoothing to be done back here, which is really not a problem. I'm just going to use the rasp tool and get all that. But this is the easy part of the whole thing, is getting the back. It smooths out very, very quickly, and then you texture it. So we'll have a whole sculpture by tomorrow, and we'll be able to make the mold, which is what we want. So more on this next week. The D is all back together for G-Lin. I'm really pleased how it worked out. It actually broke apart again because what we're finding is that this is really not, well, it's certainly not normal styrene. Round 2 may claim it's styrene, but we all know who built this model. It isn't, because nothing really wants to stick to it. And this should work, because this is styrene glue, and when you glue styrene to styrene with this, the parts will break, but not the join. Randy Newbert and I were talking about that the other day, and I had it all back together, and it was all touched up and ready to go, and I went, "Look, Mary, it's all done," and it went and came apart, just like that. So I took Modelman Tom's advice, and I used thin CA, and I rejoined it, and using an applicator, a very thin one, got down in there, and I mean, this thing is strong. You could beat someone to death with it. I'm not going to, but you could. It's very strong. You can see the joint is nice. Again, there's no light leaking around it. This is ready to be shipped back. It's beautiful. Everything's lit up. Everything's working. And this whole piece here opened up, and we found some pry marks down here. I did, where they had tried to pry this open from here. They tried to get the whole top off. I think they wanted to see the electronic board, which is inside from Voodoo Effects. So this had to be repaired again as well. And Randy Newbert asked me something. He said, did you find any white paint or what looked like white paint on it? Remember in the other video I talked about the white paint? Evidently it's some sort of solution that they put on things to look for plastic explosives. Can you believe that? I mean, really, people. Get a life. It's a plastic model. But anyway, it's going back in a cardboard box marked not important, not fragile, and don't look at me, in so many words. So it'll probably be just fine when we ship it back to Jillian next week. It's good to have her all back nice and pretty again. I know you guys are sharp, and you probably saw this sitting behind you and thought, what the heck is this? We haven't seen this before. This was built 4 years ago for my client and friend, Ben Glenn, up in San Bruno, and because of all things going on in his life, he never picked it up. He had this and 2 other subs, which we need to now, after sitting for almost 4 years, need to get working again and send to him finally. This is the Scott Brodeen 31-inch Nautilus, and very much like my big Nautilus, you pull the probe out here, and the whole thing opens up. The whole thing opens up, there, like so. And it's lighted. There's the watertight cylinder. It has the same system where the propeller goes up and down to make it pitch, and of course the ballast tank system in here. And I do believe it still lights up. We're going to see if that's the case. Now, I have not tried to hook these lights up for, God, almost 4 years. See if they still work. They're pretty corroded. Oh, wow, look at that. Everything still works. All the lights work. It's all green inside here. We got the frog eyes. I'll turn down the lights a bit so you can see. This runs underwater with the lights on, just like my big one. Yep. You can see the green, and you can see the green coming from the back window. This is so cool. So we know that that still works. We just need a battery for it. Okay, so this model is very easy to run and operate in the water, and very easy to open and close and get to the cylinder. It's always been a really good radio-controlled submarine and functioning submarine. Unfortunately, the Seaview really doesn't have that track record, because this thing dives and surfaces perfectly, and you can see how easy it is to open and close. So you'll be seeing this in operation in the bathtub next week. I've been cleaning up the seams on this and filling all the gaps, and then I retouched up, as you guys saw from the pictures, all the paint all along the seams. I had to make these bubbles here on the nacelles that were missing from the model, but Mary cut me a bead in half out of wood, thank you Mary, and it was the right size and diameter, and using Eric's Mattel vacuum form, boy, that thing has really come in handy. Made these little tiny bubbles and just put them on with canopy glue, and they're perfect. The base is very solid now. There's no wires hanging down, and well, there's some hot glue hanging down. We've got our handy dandy switch here, turn the cells off and on, so when she's not at warp, these nacelles are dead, except for the blinking lights back here, which is what it should be, because the blue, after all, is from the fusion reaction. Let's see, so we got all that done. So all the lights are working, so basically we are ready to start putting on Lou Dalmaso's Aztec dummy stencils. And here it is, lit up. Don't you love that? There's that little delay and your heart goes, because you can see she's beautifully lit up. The deflector, everything. There's no light leaks. Even in this, even in the overhead lights here, you can see clearly. I can see clearly that there's no light leaks. The hangar bay is beautifully open. You can see all the girder work and structure in there. These are blinking. I got a little story about that. I got the model all buttoned up. everything done. I'm going, wow, everything works. Oh, this is great. And then I looked and I realized that this light here, and this light here, which are very important, were not blinking. So I had to do surgery. I had to take this piece out, get in here. Turned out it was a broken wire going to here, so I had to thread in a new wire, and I couldn't take this off the base. All the way through, using magnifying glass and tweezers, pulled it through this thing and resoldered to a different location on Randy's board, and we had the lights working again. Now, to get the nacelles working and lit up, we turn on the switch here, and you can see everything's lit up really, really pretty. I'll just turn it so Mary doesn't have to move the camera. It is working, isn't it? And I mean, it's gorgeous. It's really pretty. I got a couple little gaps to fix still, but I mean, other than that, you look at it underneath, you should be able to see on camera up under here. Can you see that those windows? Cool. So, really, really nice. This turned out beautiful. So now we can move on to doing the Aztecs and putting the decals on. The last thing to do is finish the base, and this is for sale. That's right. So if you're interested, send us an email or a PM on any of the forums or Facebook.
Hi.
And who's your guest today, Tom?
Steve Neill at Steve Neill's
Oh,
Garage.
I'm Steve Neill. This is Tom.
Hey,
Tom's here visiting today, building
torpedo tubes for my car.
For his car, the Star Wars car, which is outside the door there. So he's been working on this stuff, and we won't talk about the thing on the table.
There we go.
But thanks for coming up, Tom. It's always great to have you here. Tom comes up and uses the studio and works on his projects here, which we love to have him here.
Thank you very much.
What's the name of your business, Tom?
Modelers Brand Hobby Supplies.
That's right.
LEDs for the hobbyist, computer modders, and all sorts of other folks. You need LEDs, give me a call or an email.
All the models you see here, or you've seen here, all the ones I'm building, are loaded, packed with his LEDs inside. Well, mainly the strip LEDs, which are invaluable. I love those things. They're just really, really good.
Nice.
So.
And blinker boards from other folks that don't do those.
Well, no. Randy Newbert does all the boards at Voodoo FX for all kinds of stuff like photon torpedoes firing to nav boards, and he'll even custom tweak some of those boards for you to blink, like the JJ, which goes blink, blink, off, blink, blink, off. It wasn't good enough for him to change everything else about the ship. He had to change the way it blinked too. So because normally they go blink, blink. But anyway, so he was able to tweak that in for me, which is great because we want it to be accurate to what JJ designed. And
Show us what you were making for your car.
Oh yeah? All right, yeah, let's go. I'll have a closer look here.
Yeah.
We can go and
then you go out and look at the car.
So the idea was
Work in progress, the car.
take one tube, slice it in half laterally, and then put one on each side of the car. So let's go take a look. Now, out of 4 cuts, none of them are the same. None of them are great, but they should work.
You didn't have to tell them that. They didn't want to see it.
They're perfect, of course.
They want to notice. Of course they're perfect.
So I spent the last 4 months, 3 to 5 hours a day, putting all these panels onto the body to simulate the X-Wing armor on there.
Which is all styrene.
It's all styrene, 0.03 or so. And it's definitely been a while.
Thank you, Elliot Brown.
Yes.
Your contribution is immense.
Elliot Brown, Warren Plastic,
Literally.
supplied probably 70% of all of it. I just had to go and buy some more to finish it off. But
Well, this is why they call him Modelman Tom, because this is a model. He made his car into a model. This is a big model.
yeah, have a look back here
It's
actually.
even made out of styrene.
So I've got a buddy, Brad Carpenter, who's going to be doing this cardboard thing right there, that photo. That's our current concept. He'll be doing that in aluminum.
The whole thing fits flush back in here in aluminum with the R2 unit.
So we're going to pop the glass, and Lemons here is going to sit outside. And then there's the color concept for the paint job coming up.
Oh, I see, yeah. You see in there, Mary?
And then something even I have not seen yet.
This is the old paint job, and this is
Yeah.
this is how far you've got so far on styrene covering the entire car. So you have this to do.
Well, the trunk is getting eliminated entirely,
Oh, okay.
so I don't have to do that. And then the bumper is made out of plastic, so thanks to your advice, I'll be putting some pinstriping tape on there, putting piles of paint over there to simulate the panel lines, and that should kind of balance out with the way the styrene looks on the rest of it here.
Pretty
Then
cool.
something I haven't even seen yet is what this torpedo tube is going to look like
You need to come around the front here too.
on the side. Yeah, the back of the car is the most boring. So the tubes will go somewhere like this. I'll build up styrene on both sides of them to flush it out. And then I'll be fully armed and operational.
Look at it from the front here too.
Yeah, this is one of the nicer angles, I think.
Well, it's Hyundai made a nice little sports car. This is a very fast little car too.
Yeah.
V6 in it. Probably the same V6 that's in my car. It's a lot of engine for this small car.
So hopefully by the next time I'm up here, this will be fully painted, totally X-Wing. The torpedoes will be installed. The droid slot is going to take a while. My buddy Brad is doing that for free, so when he finishes it, he finishes it. I ain't pushing on that. But
And there's been a lot of these cars done. And I know I met at your wedding the guy that took a convertible 240Z and converted that with the R2 unit in the back and all the gauges in the cockpit and everything. It was an amazing job that he did.
Yeah, I'd like to take that to the next step that he's taking it. That's
Now,
Obi-Shawn.
do they have get-togethers like they do for the R2 thing, where they have all the guys get together with their...
There's movie cars out there, but only me and Obi-Shawn have really done this to our cars to
Right.
this degree.
Right.
There's a few others that'll paint Star Wars logo on the side of
Right.
the car and call it Star Wars.
I'm
but-
surprised more people don't do it, because it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Very cool, Tom. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And
thanks
as
for
always,
looking.
thanks for come up anytime and mess up the place and do something and make something, do something cool, because
That's the
that's
point.
what this place is for.
Yep.
So,
So thanks very much, Steve.
yeah, thank you.
Hi, and welcome back to our Q&A section of SNG.
Yes, welcome back. We love answering your questions. We really do. It's fun.
Well, one we have today from Richard Cave.
Hi, Richard.
He says, "Hi, Steve. I was wondering, have you considered 3D printing so you can design and fabricate your own parts?"
Well, yeah, this question comes up a lot, and there's all kinds of opinions about it, and basically the opinions are sort of created by people who, and I'm putting this in the most delicate way I can, who have traditional art skills and training, who can make things by hand, and then there are those who have a great imagination and great ideas that maybe do not quite have those skills, but by working with the computer can realize their dreams. And I think that's a nice way of putting it. So there's always this conflict. I found that, well, real artists don't need a printer. But to be honest with you, I think the printers are really incredible, because it enables you to create, well, in my case, if I want to scratch build a big ship or something like that, I'm basically going to want to do as much of it by hand as I can, because that's what I like to do and that's what I can do. And I like doing things the way they have been done in the past. I mean, there were no 3D printers for, the refit for motion picture, or for TOS Star Trek, or for 2001, or for Star Wars, or any of those movies. And you know where I'm going with this. But today, practical models are starting to come back more and more. And I would definitely use a printer to make parts, to facilitate making the model within a schedule that usually barely allows us to make a practically built model all by hand and have it come out right in the restrictive timelines given to us by the studio. So from that respect, they're really, really great. There are some things that they will do just so much better than you can do by hand, especially when it comes to making hand props, phasers, tricorders, all that kind of stuff. You can get things that look so good that you can take an HD camera and get right up on it, and it holds up beautifully. We would very much like to get a printer here, and one day we plan to have one. But for now, I have a good friend named Ken Palco. You've seen him on the show. He's probably the best prop maker in the business. And he has several high-end printers, which if I do need parts made, he will make them for us if we get a project or a show. So obviously there'll be lots of things where I say, I don't want to spend my whole life making that part. I'm going to do it on a printer. So we do plan to make that part of what we do here at SNG. Good question.
Great. Our next question comes from, let me see here, Steve Moschauser. I hope I'm saying your name right. I know Kachapalya is a mouthful too. He says,
or as Gary Hughes said, oh, never mind.
He says, this might be a dumb question, but there's no dumb questions, just dumb answers.
And I can give them sometimes.
But with Halloween coming up, and with the next generation proton pack I'm building for my son to wear, I need
Which
some...
is really nice, by the way. You've been showing that on our page.
Yeah, he needs some ectoplasm. Do you know how to make it? Is there a recipe? I want to have a container of it mounted somewhere on the proton pack and give it a glowing light to highlight it. It's not Canon, but being a newer model proton pack, I'm taking liberties. Many thanks.
And right you should too, because you know there's nothing wrong with refits, redos, and reboots. I love them. You know, I mean, there's been some really great stuff, and I really like the pack that you're doing. It's really, really cool. I think you wrote me about that, and I pointed you to BermanIndustries.com. There are other places to get it. If you do a search on the internet, you want to look for methocellulose, or methocell as it's called. Basically, it's a cellulose material that comes as a powder, it mixes with water. We've been using it since the 80s. And you mix it with water, it turns clear, becomes very gelatinous. It's nasty stuff, really. And you can tin it, you can light it, you can do all kinds of stuff to it. It's fairly common, and a lot of makeup effects suppliers carry it. It's called methocellulose, or methocell.
Okay, well the other question was, I believe, was off a Facebook question. And it was from Jason
Yes.
Garrett.
Yeah.
And it was kind of personal, but I can go ahead and answer it for you. And he wanted to know how Steve and I met. Well, you know, we're on the internet all the time, and yes, we met through a dating site. His Jilly had just passed away a couple months previous, and I had been widowed a year. My friend talked me into going on there. His friend talked him to going on there. He saw my picture and wrote to me, and when he told me about Jilly, I was very saddened, and I had lots of friends and support when Tony passed away, and I felt that I could give Steve some support. And then we met and we clicked, and here we are.
Yeah, we had so much in common, and we were both artists. And you know, one of the things I remember was I asked her what her favorite holiday is. And the minute I asked her that, I realized that she was going to say Halloween before I could say that was my favorite holiday too. But you know, that was what do you call that? A deal maker?
I mean,
yeah.
We're both Pisces. We have so much in
Yes,
common.
Our birthdays are mine's on the 5th and hers is on the 3rd. Second.
Yeah, he's a guy. What do you want?
I knew that. And we're a year apart. 51,
yeah, so we
52. That one I got right.
Yeah, we get to be the same age for 3 days.
That's right.
So that's the answer to how we met.
That's the short story.
Yes. The other question was what type of artist I am and what's been my training. Well, I've been an artist my entire life, and so I went and looked it up what type of artist I am online, and I'm a visionary artist. I'm self-taught. My mother was an artist. I've come from a family of artists. My mother was a fabulous watercolorist. That was my first medium, but I've also done fiber arts, jewelry, I've done photography my whole life, and so visionary artist sounds good to me. This is the end of our Q&A.
Actually, it's not. There was one of the questions I just remembered, and we overlooked it. I believe it was from Chris. I don't remember his last name. It was regarding what happened to the spacesuits that Rick Sternbach created that were for a science fiction program. He couldn't remember the name of it. What he's remembering is that Doug Drexler, myself, Mike Kuda, Andy Probert, we're all working on a project called Space Command, which is still ongoing. And Andy Probert designed the spacesuits. And we started to work on them and we got pretty far. Uncle Ted and I were working on them. They were beautiful. They were a fantastic design. What happened was, and I'm going to make this as short as I possibly can, is that when we agreed to be part of this project and help them raise the funds to have the budget for the project, because we supported it during the Kickstarter campaign. That was based on a movie, or a series of movies, that was about, basically, to put it in an analogy that works, how the solar system was won. In other words, a retro-style, sort of 50-ish feel program that showed how we, as a race of beings, would colonize the moon, colonize Mars, and basically conquer the solar system, like we won the West, the same thing. So somewhat, it was reality-based, with a nice retro flair to it, about the adventures of human beings in space. When we finally actually read the script, because Mark Sacree originally wrote a story outline about it. It was fabulous and we were all on board for it. But when we actually got the script was more fantasy sci-fi with lots of aliens in it and cyborgs and things like that. And that's not what we wanted to work on. So we respectively left the project. And Doug, who had designed the spaceships, the spacesuits, and so much of the effects and stuff, took that with him. So they never got finished. They're still here. They may get finished for something else someday, but that's what happened, just to set the record straight. So that answers that question. And before we leave, I want to thank Paul Gentry, who secretly, talking to Mary, had me sent one of these. I'm going to open it up so you know what I mean. VistaVision. If you don't know what VistaVision is, you might have saw Vertigo. For what? By Alfred Hitchcock, which was shot in VistaVision, as many movies during the 50s were. And if you want to know more about it, do a Google search. But this was the t-shirt, and you saw me wearing one in a picture when I was on NBC sound stages with the Communion Aliens working on Whitley Strieber's television program. I was wearing one of these, and Paul asked me if I still had it. I said no, sadly it was lost. He talked to Mary, and this package just arrived a few minutes ago with my very own VistaVision t-shirt that only people in the know what it means. If you wanted to be one of those guys, because I know a lot of you are saying, what the heck is VistaVision? Go look it up on Google. That concludes.
That concludes
yes,
it.
And,
okay.
And you know, we really enjoy doing this. It's a lot of fun. It adds a lot to the show. So please keep your questions coming, and we'll be happy to answer them.
And we sure will. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
And remember to subscribe.
That's right. Subscribe to our channel so you'll know about things like VistaVision.
Well, what a great week, and it really was, and we plan to repeat it next week with more fun at SNG Studios. All kinds of interesting stuff, so stay tuned and keep subscribing. Your subscribership has been amazing. We just a little annotation down there you can just click on. You'll become an instant subscriber, and we really appreciate it because we're getting a lot of views and a lot of support, and I'm hoping you're all having a lot of fun. One thing we have dropped is monetization on YouTube, because basically we're making them money, we're not making money, and every time we turn around we're being slammed with copyright issues, even if we paid to use the music. So enough is enough. We have dropped it, and I think you'll appreciate it because you won't be getting those darn ads popping up all the time, which is just putting money in their pocket. So that's why we've done that. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.